Palestine! Thank you all for coming. And truth is, I've anticipated your meeting doing this for the past of the international massively. I can't put it anywhere but disappointing the whole world. The ruling of the IPA yesterday should have been a lot further. A lot of people see that as success. I don't see it as success because their success isn't. This is for a permanent ceasefire and to stop things here and now. Unfortunately, they haven't. So we must get louder. We must stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Palestine. But we must keep protesting. We need them to know that we are all Palestinians. In our thousands, in our millions. We are all Palestinians. In our thousands, in our millions. We are all Palestinians. In our thousands, in our millions. We are all Palestinians. Standing in solidarity together will send the ripples and the message out to our Palestinian brothers and sisters, locally, nationally and internationally. We need to remain as steadfast as our brothers and sisters that are suffering in Palestine. We have to stay as one and we must keep being active. This is very, very important as we are literally live streaming a genocide. It's not a matter of people saying, is it a genocide? It is a genocide and we are witnessing that genocide. Over 15,000 children have been killed today. 12 hospitals. There were 36 hospitals in total in Gaza. There is one left now, which they are bombarded. Who bombs a hospital? Nobody will bomb a hospital who has any moral legitimacy. I want to emphasize one thing. This is Benjamin Netanyahu and the Likud party. You must educate yourself on them. This is nothing to do against Muslims, against Jews. The media narrative is nothing but nonsense. But the Likud party and Benjamin Netanyahu are quite simply genocidal, sadistic maniacs. We really... Well, the siren was going off there. Maybe it is an emergency. But we need to remember that 1982, Benjamin Netanyahu specifically said then he wants no Palestinian to exist. Palestinians have the same right as you and me, and all they want to do is live in peace and harmony. Just remember one thing, Hamas is not Palestine and Palestine is not Hamas. Today, guys, we've got a few speakers on before we do our marches to South. First, I'd like to introduce one of the original veterans who's been doing it for so long, his name is Stevenson. Give it up for David, thank you. Hello? Once again, we are standing here with the people of Gaza. We have not given up. We will not give up. Just as the Palestinian people themselves will never give up. And actually, I think the decision yesterday published by the International Court of Justice was extremely significant. I mean, yes, they've only told us what we already know. We have known for some time now that there is genocide going on in the Gaza Strip. That doesn't tell us anything. And we still know, that this decision in itself will not cease the slaughter. It will not stop the bombs, or the missiles, or the tanks, or the blowing up of buildings with people inside them, or the destruction of hospitals and schools, and anything else. But what it does do is it strips away the last vestige of any kind of excuse. The likes of Sunak, the likes of Biden, the likes of Mike can hang on to, that there is any kind of idea
that there is any kind of justification for the acts of the Israeli state. Israel is in the dock on a charge of genocide at the International Court of Justice. That is significant. And because, not only that, that actually puts a legal obligation on all the signatories to the International Genocide Convention. 150 nations are signed up to that convention. It includes our government. It includes all the governments of the EU. It includes the American government. And they now have a legal obligation under the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court to do whatever they can to make sure that genocide cannot continue in Gaza. And that means, in practical terms, or it should mean, no more weapons deliveries. Yeah. They could stop it now. Yeah. Don't give me that sanctimonious, nauseating hand-wringing that our governments do when they trot out the same old, oh, please try and not kill so many civilians, because you know, and we know, and the Israeli state knows, that they could stop it today. They could stop it tomorrow. Just stop the weapons. Stop the vetoing in the United Nations. Stop the flights taken off from British bases in Cyprus. Just stop it all, and you could stop it today.
Yeah, well said.
And I think it is significant, because today has got another significance. January the 27th is Holocaust Memorial Day. That might seem like a strange thing for me to introduce, but I think we mark Holocaust Memorial Day. We remember Holocaust Memorial Day. We remember the 6 million Jews and the others who died under the Nazis. And we commemorate those deaths. And we say never again. And there is no contradiction. There is absolutely no contradiction at all, despite what our enemies might say, despite what the government, the Tory government says, despite what the Sun and the Daily Mail say. There is no contradiction between us saying that here on January the 27th we remember the Holocaust and we stand implacably opposed to the actions of the Israeli state today. Yeah. Yes. There is no contradiction. Yeah. And we have to remember that we can talk about the horror of Gaza. You all see it on your media every single day. I don't need to tell you about what's going on in Gaza or in the West Bank. But we also have to remember that amidst that horror there is the hope that is represented by the resistance. The resistance first and foremost within Palestine itself. Netanyahu's dream of a quick victory against Hamas lies in ruins. 100 days plus 3 months of the most intense pulverization of Gaza, and the armed resistance in Palestine is still outmaneuvering, out tactically dealing with, and still inflicting blows on the Israeli Defence Force. And I for one welcome that. I don't pretend otherwise. And that continued resistance within Gaza is causing splits within Zionism, within the Israeli state. We saw the Israeli hostage parents and relatives occupying the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, the other day. Good, we want to see those splits. I don't think anything is going to kind of significant is going to come, but the fact is they are divided themselves, and if they are divided, that makes the resistance stronger. But it's also the resistance around the world. We're just a small part of that here today, but we have continued. I have never known, in all my years of standing up here and shouting my mouth off, and many of you know I've been doing this for far, far, far too long. But I cannot remember a time when I've been so inspired by this movement, so encouraged that there is hope in the world by the way that people have found their voices and stood up. And today we're going to be protesting outside places that we should be boycotting, and I'll let others talk about the boycotts in particular. But we must remember that when we fought 30, 40 years ago against apartheid in South Africa, the fact that because of the work that was done around the world in boycotting South African goods, in refusing to let South African sports teams come here, in British rock bands and pop bands refusing to go to South Africa or play sports with them or buy their goods or anything, that was part and parcel of bringing that apartheid regime down. And it's a long, slow struggle. We were boycotting Barclays for 16 years when we were bringing down apartheid. But that is an important part that we can do. But there's two other things, and I've spoken for long enough, but I just want to run through quickly before I finish. The first is that next Saturday is the next national demonstration, and I know that we're standing here right next to me is organising that, so see him if you want to go. One of the problems we've had in organising coaches down to London is the prohibitive cost now of getting a coach to go to London. You're talking about £2,000 a coach. It's ridiculous, but that's what we're facing. So I think that today, rather than doing another, we've collected so much money, tens and tens of thousands of pounds for various charities. Today I've got a bucket down here and it says on it, donations towards the cost of the coach. So if you can't go next weekend, but you want to help contribute towards the cost of other people going, let's make sure that we can afford for whoever wants to go to be able to go to London and raise their voices. Because those London demonstrations have been the biggest in the world, or some of the biggest in the world, and people in Gaza know about them and notice them, and that's important. Yeah. And lastly, the other thing I wanted to mention is that on Wednesday week, Wednesday 7th of February, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign and the Stop the War Coalition, the two national organisations that have done more than anybody else to coordinate the actions across the country, are calling for a workplace day of action. And I know many people shrink away from that. Oh, there's nobody at work wants to talk about it, there's nothing I can do. But I'll tell you what a workplace day of action might mean. It might mean you and one other person in your office or in your workplace scrawling "ceasefire now" on a piece of A4 paper, taking a selfie of it and putting it up on the WhatsApp group. That's a workplace day of action. If you can get, and when you get that second person to agree to it, what you do is you say to the second person, who else can we get involved? And when you get the third person, you ask them who's the fourth, and the fifth, and the sixth, and the 20th. It's not just down to you. And in other places, it will be more than that. I've been talking to a couple of brilliant young people this morning at colleges and universities in Huddersfield, and we're going to try and make sure that we see some significant gatherings of people on that day. Let's do it on that day when people around the country are doing it. And if you're doing something, put it up on the WhatsApp group. If you need help with the placards and the flags and all the rest of it, give a shout out. There are people who would love to support you. Let's make that a big day of action.
Yes.
So, it feels hard, doesn't it? It breaks your heart watching the news, listening to the news. Sometimes I find I have to just switch it off because I can't stand it. But I'm not downhearted, because every time I come to a gathering like this, I gain strength from that. We all gain strength for coming together. We know 75 years ago, David Ben-Gurion, the first Prime Minister of Israel, after the Nakba, after the expulsion of Palestinians, was asked by a journalist, well, what about the Palestinians? And he said, this generation are beaten. The next generation will forget. And the generation after that will have never heard of it. Well, David Ben-Gurion was wrong. The Palestinian people have not forgotten. We have not forgotten. All around the world, in our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians! Victory to the resistance!
Thank you, David. Thank you so much. Thank you, David, so much for that. I will say, the one significance about the ICJ which people seem to forget, the country that led it is South Africa. South Africa suffered, South Africa went through apartheid, South Africa went through hardship, and yet we're the only country internationally who stood up and actually wanted to represent the Palestinians, because they have had that suffering. They have seen apartheid, they have seen the racism, they have seen the segregation. The one thing they didn't see on the same scale, which is thankful, is the amount of bombing that Israel are doing. The carpet bombing that Israel are doing is nothing short of sadistic. And I know I'm going to use that word a lot, because when I see all this stuff happening at the moment, I see no moral stance whatsoever. The IDF and Netanyahu will turn around and say they are acting in self-defense. Let me ask you this, how can you have self-defense against a child? There is no self-defense against a child. There is no self-defense against an innocent person. Many of you would have seen 3 people walking, a family, with a white flag, which was shown on the news with ITV. They are walking with a white flag and got sniped and killed. Is that self-defense? No, that is nothing but sadistic, targeted genocide and killing intentionally. That is not acceptable. This is 2024, when the world should have united. The world should be moving in the right direction. Free, free!
Palestine!
Free, free!
Palestine!
Free, free!
Palestine!
Today's march we will be focusing on boycotting, because representing what South Africa have done with apartheid, they stopped apartheid through boycotting. We must keep boycotting and boycotting continuously. We have many alternatives with that, so don't think it can't be done, because it can be. I would just like to welcome up the next speaker, which is Simon, who is involved with the boycott campaign, who will be able to fill us in about boycotting, and then after that we will be starting our march soon, guys. Yeah. So just give it for Simon, thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I'm not going to speak too much about boycotting, because I think Victoria's going to speak in detail about that after. Not well, it's something. But, I mean, we're all on our demonstration today. We're raising our voices loud and proud in opposition to Israel's murderous onslaught in Gaza. But it's also a call for people to join us in boycotting Israel and Israeli products, to stop companies making profits from investing in the Israeli apartheid regime. What are we calling for from our government in relation to this, especially after the ICJ decision yesterday? Stop arming Israel. Stop arming Israel is what we need to demand of our government. Israel is a regime that has oppressed and discriminated against the Palestinian people and occupied their lands for decades. We can all, every one of us, choose to support our Palestinian brothers and sisters whenever we shop by refusing to buy Israeli goods. We can all, every one of us, build this campaign every day by asking our friends, our family, our workmates to join the boycott with us. Our movement needs to grow and keep growing in order to help our Palestinian sisters and brothers win their freedom, the justice and equality they deserve across the whole of Palestine. In the 1980s and 90s, the worldwide anti-apartheid movement slowly but surely isolated apartheid South Africa. boycotts of South African goods and companies and sanctions against the apartheid regime slowly brought it to its knees. In 1964, Nelson Mandela was sentenced to life imprisonment. In 1984, he spent his 20th year in jail. By 1994, he was the first democratically elected president of the new South Africa. People power can force these changes. Today, that new democratic South Africa has led the world in calling out Israel's genocide in Gaza. But yesterday, in its response to the South Africa's urgent request for the ICJ to intervene and stop the genocide, disappointingly, shamefully, the ICJ did not order Israel to cease fire. At the same time, the ICJ ordered Israel to make sure desperately needed humanitarian aid can actually get into Gaza: food, water, medicines, electricity, everything that Israel has been sieging and blocking for months. How can that be done without a ceasefire? It cannot be done without a ceasefire. It's expected that South Africa will now try to get the UN Security Council to force Israel to comply with the ICJ rulings and order a ceasefire. But we all know who sits on the Security Council: the United States, which has twice vetoed motions calling for a ceasefire. The UK also sits on the Security Council, and being America's little poodle, the UK government has also shamefully refused to call for a ceasefire. This must not happen again. What do we want? A ceasefire. What do we want? Ceasefire. What do we want?
Ceasefire.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Ceasefire.
When do we want it?
Now.
We can all play our part in getting that ceasefire with another form of boycott. This is a matter of life and death for Gazans. It's a matter of moral fibre and leadership for politicians. We must tell our MPs and our local councillors, all those politicians who are meant to support us, represent us, to call on their leaders of their parties and on the government to support South Africa at the UN, to call for a ceasefire now. This is something politicians can do. We should all demand that they do it, whether that's face to face with them, by letter, by email or by petitions. And if they don't, or they won't, we must tell them they will not get our votes. This year, 2024, is a big year for elections around the world. In the UK, we've got local elections in May and a general election in autumn. We all have a choice to make in those elections. If our votes are to be worth anything, if our votes are to make a difference, then we must not only vote for those politicians we must only vote for those politicians who act to defend the people of Gaza. We must demand that they call for a ceasefire now. We must demand that they call on their own party leaders and the UK government to support this call for a ceasefire now. Not some temporary pause in hostilities after which Israel starts all over again. Not some so-called sustainable ceasefire in the future after Israel has already wiped Gaza and its people off the map. The people of Gaza need a permanent ceasefire, and they need that ceasefire now. Politicians from whatever party must support this call. If they don't, they won't get our vote. If they don't, we'll vote for those who do. What do we want?
Ceasefire.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Ceasefire.
When do we want it?
Now.
No ceasefire, no vote. No ceasefire,
No vote.
no ceasefire,
No vote.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're welcoming up to speak Victoria. In a moment.
I know you don't know it normally.
Free, free! Palestine! Free, free!
Palestine.
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free.
Free, free!
Palestine.
Free, free!
Palestine.
What do we want?
Ceasefire.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Ceasefire.
When do we want it?
Now.
I'm going to pass you over to Victoria now. No problem. I'm fine with you. If you press the button.
Hello everybody, can you hear me? Yes? Hello everybody. I'm not getting up on the platform because it's humiliating. I've been involved in this campaign since 2014. I was completely ignorant of what was going on in Palestine until I saw the bombing. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, just hold it a bit closer to your mouth.
Like that?
Yep.
Oh, great, thank you very much. Yeah, I got involved in 2014 and I really did know nothing about what was going on in Palestine until I saw those children being shot on the beach in Gaza. And I thought, I've got to know more. Like the rest of the world, I was ignoring this. Now, I'm not going to repeat what has already been said, because this is a walk, which I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to do, but it's to go to those places we need to boycott. And I want to give you a little bit of background about this, because this started with Brand Israel. Brand Israel was a public relations campaign to establish Israel as a cosmopolitan, progressive, westernized and democratic society, contrasting it with the Islamic, homophobic and repressive surrounding nations. That was the stance it took. In 2007, it started off with it doesn't sound a lot now, $15 million. And then a further 26 million in 2010. And from then on, mostly in dollars, but often in shekels, the campaign has gone on and on. The strategy is to use culture as the best form of propaganda and to promote Israeli culture overseas. So beware when you see visiting artists come in. Wait, have a look at whether they're being sponsored by the Israeli government. Artists and writers actually sign a contract, and I've seen these people come to receive state funding as part of a campaign to promote the policy interests of the state of Israel. They sign a contract to do that via culture and art. So that's one thing that some of the stars that go to, the celebrities that go to Tel Aviv, are more and more aware of the fact that they too are under scrutiny. So, you know, when you see a brilliant Israeli cellist running concerts in be careful, because their funding has probably come from the state. The campaign was designed, I'm sorry I've got notes here, but yeah, I want to make this clear, explicitly to hide Israel's violations of human rights and international law under the guise of cultural and scientific glamour. Science is another good one. Israel's efforts to rebrand itself began with setting up, has anybody heard of Hasbara? Yes. Hasbara, some people haven't. Hasbara, it was a department created by the Israeli government to promote its achievements and positive activities. And one of the key functions of modern Hasbara is to depict Israel as the victim and even the underdog. Today, as we know, it takes the form of videos, infographics and viral social media and hashtags released and promoted by the Israeli state. We know this, we're seeing it all the time. I'll just give you this little bit of history. A brand survey from 2006 found that Israel, this is a quote, Israel is the worst brand in the world. Israel's brand is by a considerable margin the most negative we have ever measured. That was from the company that did the research. If Israel's intention is to promote itself as a desirable place to live and invest in, the challenge appears to be a steep one. 52% of respondents in a BBC survey from 2012 thought that Israel had a negative influence on the world. And I know this is a bit dated, it's 20 years ago, but a 2003 Gallup poll among EU citizens found that Israel was seen as the biggest threat to world security, and here we are. I'm hoping not taking too much time. Oops. Thank you. Sorry, Pete. Sorry. I'm now just going to quickly come on to boycott, divestment and sanctions. I know you're waiting to get up on your march. The boycott defence, you probably know this, was a movement started by Omar Barghouti in 2005. It was in response to what he knew was happening with Israel, the campaign of Brand Israel. BDS targets companies that support Israel in a bid to end international support for Israel's oppression of the Palestinians. It used to be just be that you only boycotted goods that were on the settlements, but of course that sold and made goods and services in Israel, in East Jerusalem, and but now it's everywhere. The settlements are everywhere. I've been there. I've seen the land taken over. I've stood in a Palestinian woman's house and seen the bulldozers charging across the land, putting in drainage, putting in electric cables, taking the land. And so the BDS campaign knew that they were going to have to counteract this. So everything that's made on the settlements, that's what we boycott. Omar Bakuti spent 30 years in Israel, in jail in Israel. He was never charged. It was a spurious account of something like $700,000 worth of tax that he'd evaded, and he was never charged. And just like Nelson Mandela, he spent 30 years in jail and he died without seeing what we're seeing now. But of course the BDS was inspired by, as has been said, by the South African campaign, and Mandela. You know, we know Mandela, he spent 30 years in jail. It seems so obvious. So he too was fighting a white supremacist state. I'm just quickly going to say what and who to boycott. You probably know this stuff. But I've got a really good website I just came across this morning, and they've just produced a new leaflet in the light of the judgment yesterday. So you can download, and I've got it here, so if you want to come and photograph it, rather than me reading it out, you can come and take a photograph. But it's the IHRC, strangely enough, that have done this, along with a couple of other organisations. So it's IHRC and in Minds. So these leaflets you can download. The companies have all been selected on the basis of their size and the level of support they provide to Israel. The truncated list, there are 18 multinationals. Top of the list. Who knows what the top of the list is? McDonald's, world's largest fast food chain. They've donated free meals to Israeli soldiers, introduced a 50% discount for military personnel. And hired a team of lawyers to fight suggestions that they are distributing free meals to Palestinians in Gaza. Next, which next burger chain? No, which next burger? Burger King. Burger King are doing exactly the same. Free meals, discounts, whatever. Okay, going on to drinks. Yay! Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Yeah? Or Pepsi. Because we're coming to the fast food. Starbucks and Coca-Cola not only maintained a manufacturing plant in the West Bank settlement, but is donating supplies to the Israeli military. And Pepsi has also donated millions of dollars to unnamed. It just goes on and on. Media. Anybody got any ideas on the media?
All of them.
All of them. Fox in particular, Disney, Paramount, the list goes on. Go to that website and have a look. I think it'll do it if you just put IHRC, and then it'll come up. Okay, that's enough from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you, Victoria, for that. Yeah, there's a little overview there on boycotting. We must keep boycotting and stay consistent with it, guys. And I'll tell you one thing, it will hit them financially. Thank you, Ayan. And Starbucks has been hit by £11 billion to date. £11 billion is a significant amount of money, and this will keep hitting them, and that's what we need to keep doing. As we're getting more and more people coming, we're going to have one more talk after this, then we will do our march into town. Things like this, people think a small thing is not a big thing. It is a big thing. Every tiny effort you can do, it will make a big difference. Don't think for a second that you're not going to make a difference, because you are making a difference right now by just being here, consistently turning up. Being the voice for the silenced Palestinians is our responsibility. It is not a test for our Palestinian brothers and sisters. What is going on in the world is a test for us. We are the few who are many, who will represent them every single day, because in our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians. In our thousands, in our
our millions.
We are all Palestinians.
In our thousands, in our millions.
We are all Palestinians.
Rishi Sunak said you can't. I'm doing the chat afterwards. Well, I will say one thing about him specifically because it is shame on him. He said anybody who says from the river to the sea is a useless idiot. That is absolute nonsense, and that's the nicest word I could use, because we need to remember one thing. The Likud party with Benjamin Netanyahu in their charter, in their constitution, it says from the sea to the river it will be Israel. The PLO simply flipped it. We need to understand that. So they said from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, because Israel to this day is living in freedom. Palestinians are not living in freedom. So we need to emphasize that. From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
from the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
from the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free.
When you say that chant, say it with passion, because Rishi Sunak can say what he wants. They're trying to put hurdles in place to silence us. They will never silence us.
Never.
Never. We will keep standing, and understand this. When one thing I will say, when you think you're speaking to people and they don't seem to be reciprocating with it, Allah specifically says in the Quran, it is not the eyes that are blind, it is the hearts. It is our hearts which unite us here today. Allah unites all our hearts, regardless of race, religion or ethnicity. We are stood here as one, and all for our Palestinian brothers and sisters. Because we want a free
Palestine.
free
Palestine.
free
Palestine.
One thing as well, we have managed to get collectively together across with people, because we all representing Palestinians. I would like to introduce our brother Imran from West Yorkshire for Palestine to give us a talk. Sorry, Hamza. sorry. I'm used to saying Imran, sorry. It's Hamza. Who, I'll be honest with you guys, a lot of people see groups like ours, groups like West Yorkshire for Palestine, and think it's a walk in the park. It is not a walk in the park. It is very long, tireless days. We have friends, we have family, we have businesses, but I'm telling you, we will not stop. We will not stop until Palestine is free, because we are their representation. While they are being silenced right now in Huddersfield, we are representing Palestine. In Palestine they are suffering, but we will stand here in solidarity. Free!
Palestine.
Free!
Palestine.
Free!
Palestine.
So if you could just welcome Hamza on, please, guys. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum and peace be with you.
Walaikum assalam.
I want to begin with the first verse of the Quran, so please do listen up. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Now the reason I begin with this is because I want to give thanks to Allah. I want to praise Allah, because we are the ones who are fortunate. We are the ones that are not having to go through the massacre. We are the ones who are safe. But we can see everything that is going on around the world. We can see that our brothers and sisters are suffering. We can see the occupation. We can see the genocide. And we are the fortunate ones, because we have been placed here in this position today, stood here in Huddersfield to make a change. And I want everyone here to say that they are going to make a change as of right now, that they will use every power that they have to fight for the people of Palestine, and they will fight until Palestine is free. We will not stop. We will not rest. We must rise up, and we must always fight until we see the day that Palestine is free. Say it with me now. Free, free.
Palestine!
Free, free.
Palestine!
Free, free.
Palestine!
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free!
And just one quick important reminder. The weapon of the believer is dua, it is prayer. So please, every single day, if you can only do one thing, make sure it is that you pray for your brothers and sisters in Palestine. Whether it's once a day, 5 times a day, 100 times a day. Do not stop praying, because that is the most important thing that we have. The most powerful weapon that we have to make a difference to this world. And that is what we need to do. That is what we aim to achieve, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum. Free, free.
Palestine!
Free, free.
Palestine!
Free, free.
Palestine!
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free!
In our hundreds, in our millions.
We are all Palestinians!
In our hundreds, in our millions.
We are all Palestinians!
In our hundreds, in our millions.
We are all Palestinians!
Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry.
We will never let you die.
Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry.
We will never let you die.
Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry.
We will never let you die.
Free, free.
Palestine!
Free, free.
Palestine!
Free, free.
Palestine!
1, 2, 3, 4.
Occupation no more!
5, 6, 7, 8.
Israel is a terrorist state!
1, 2, 3, 4.
Occupation no more!
5, 6, 7, 8.
Israel is a terrorist state!
1, 2, 3, 4.
Occupation no more!
5, 6, 7, 8.
Israel is a terrorist state!
5, 6, 7, 8.
Israel is a terrorist state!
5, 6, 7, 8.
Israel is a terrorist state!
5, 6, 7, 8.
Israel is a terrorist state!
5, 6, 7, 8.
Israel is a terrorist state!
In our hundreds, in our millions.
We are all Palestinians!
In our hundreds, in our millions.
We are all Palestinians!
In our hundreds, in our millions.
We are all Palestinians!
Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry.
We will never let you die!
Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry.
We will never let you die!
Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry.
We will never let you die!
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free!
Free, free.
Palestine!
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 We want a ceasefire, right? What do we want?
Ceasefire!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Ceasefire!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Ceasefire!
When do we want it?
Now!
We want justice. What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
We want freedom. What do we want?
Freedom!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Freedom!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Freedom!
When do we want it?
Now!
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
Ceasefire now!
Thank you, Hamza, for that. Hamza is a massive inspiration, guys, as well, because he is helping to coordinate West Yorkshire, which is not an easy thing to do. But we, like I said before, everybody here, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, we are united by the heart for the Palestinians. I would like us to start getting together, because we will start marching through town. Hold your flags high. Let people know we represent Palestine. Let people know Huddersfield is here for Palestine. We will march through town. We will stand in solidarity, and we will get the message out there that we want to free, free,
Palestine!
free, free,
Palestine!
free, free.
Palestine!
In our thousands and our millions.
We are all Palestinians!
In our thousands and our millions.
We are all Palestinians!
In our thousands and our millions.
We are all Palestinians!
So let's get together, and we're going to start marching towards town. We will come back here for a few more speeches afterwards, and then we will be calling it a day. So let's start congregating towards this side, and I'll get to the front with Hamza and a couple of other lads. Thank you.
Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free.
Free, free.
Palestine.
Free, free.
Palestine.
Free, free.
Palestine.
Free, free.
Palestine.
We want a ceasefire. What do we want?
Ceasefire.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Ceasefire.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Ceasefire.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Ceasefire.
When do we want it?
Now.
We want justice. What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
We want freedom. What do we want?
Freedom.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Freedom.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Freedom.
When do we want it?
Now.
Ceasefire now!
Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
Ceasefire now!
Ceasefire now!
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! McDonald! Shame on you, McDonald! Shame on you! McDonald! Shame on you! McDonald! McDonald! Boycott Barclays!
Boycott Barclays!
Boycott Barclays!
Boycott Barclays!
Boycott Barclays!
Boycott Barclays!
Guys, like I said, remember, this is not specific about any of the staff. I want you guys to make the honest contribution to start closing your bank accounts with Barclays. Once you start closing your bank accounts, that is what will start hurting them. Close your business accounts, cancel your subscriptions. These are the maneuvers which will start helping them. We can chant and we will chant, but we will also keep them on point. So please, guys, let's congregate here for a second.
Palestine! We are all Palestinians! We are all Palestinians! We are all Palestinians! We are all Palestinians! Palestine! 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 Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! Occupation no more! Israel is a terrorist state! Occupation no more! Israel is a terrorist state!
or not. I don't know if you do or if you will do. If you do, please close your bank account with them. It's very simple to do. Once we start doing that collectively, it will have a significant impact. And we must do it collectively. Don't go to places like McDonald's. Don't go to Subway. Don't go to KFC. Choose where you spend your money in that respect. You have a choice. We don't need to be funding the war machine that is Israel. Because in our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians. In our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians. In our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. The sun has started to shine here. We want the sun to shine in Gaza where the children and adults can go out freely, to play together, to be in peace together. We don't want them to look up to the sky and see another planet of it. We want that to stop, and we want that to stop from today. Not in a month's time, not tomorrow, today. What do we want? Ceasefire. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Ceasefire. When do we want it? Now. I've got a new track for you guys. Up with liberation, down with occupation. Up with liberation. 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 From the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. I'm going to use this opportunity to educate those around us. So people ask us why we protest here, why we walk through the streets of the United Kingdom. Because to them it makes no sense, but to us it does make sense. Because we are a symbol of hope for the people of Palestine. When they see us marching through our streets and our country, they know that they are not alone. They no longer feel alienated or isolated. They feel that they have brothers and sisters all around the world. We want freedom for the people of Palestine, and we will not stop until our blessed land is free! 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 Palestine! Free! Free! Palestine! Free! Free! Palestine! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! In a hundred, in a million! We are all Palestinians! In a hundred, in a million! We are all Palestinians! In a hundred, in a million! We are all Palestinians! Don't you cry! We will never let you die! Don't you cry! We will never let you die! Don't you cry! We will never let you die! 1, 2, 3, 4! Occupation no more! 5, 6, 7, 8! Israel is a terrorist state! 1, 2, 3, 4! Occupation no more! 5, 6, 7, 8! Israel is a terrorist state! 5, 6, 7, 8! Israel is a terrorist state! Up with liberation! Down with occupation! Up with liberation! Down with occupation! Up with liberation! Down with occupation! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! Don't you cry! We will never let you die! Don't you cry! We will never let you die! Don't you cry! We will never let you die! What do we want? Ceasefire! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Ceasefire! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Ceasefire! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Ceasefire! When do we want it? Now! We want justice! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! We want freedom! What do we want? Freedom! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Freedom! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Gaza, don't you cry! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry!
We will never let you die.
Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry!
We will never let you die.
Let's continue with the march, guys. On me.
Free, free!
Palestine.
Free, free!
Palestine.
Free, free!
Palestine.
1, 2, 3, 4!
Occupation no more.
5, 6, 7, 8!
Israel is a terror state.
1, 2, 3, 4!
Occupation no more.
5, 6, 7, 8!
Israel is a terror state.
1, 2, 3, 4!
Occupation no more.
5, 6, 7, 8!
Israel is